Hi guys, I'm Natasha and I'm the Thermomix Wonder Woman. Thank you for watching this. If you're watching this back on repeat, I've got some lovely people watching with me. You can't see them because I've got me spotlighted so you guys can see me in the machine. But I have said to them if at any point they've got questions, just to throw those at me. That's what we're all here for. I've got people who are watching who have machines, people who are watching who haven't got machines. I apologize for the lighting. As you can see in my kitchen, we are in the midst of a refurb, so I'm trying to work out what the best lighting is and the best place to be. But today I am going to be making butter chicken because it is 5:30 here and it's going to be dinner time by the time I'm done. So butter chicken is one of our favorites. I have just spent loads of time in South Africa and eaten so much steak and red meat. It's ridiculous. So I definitely needed something that was not red meat. Hence the butter chicken. I'm also, while the butter chicken is cooking, I've got two machines in my kitchen because when I do these kinds of demos, while one is doing a big cook time, it's nice just to swap onto another one and I can show you something else. So while the butter chicken is doing its big cooking time, I'm going to make some naan bread. I'm going to make the dough for the naan bread. It's a garlic and coriander one. The naan breads won't be ready for me. There's my pooch coming into the background there. The naan breads won't be ready for me tonight because they do take a bit of time to prove. But I'm adding extra chicken into my butter chicken. So we're going to have leftovers either tomorrow or the next day. And I can have my nice homemade fresh naan breads with that. I haven't actually even made this naan bread recipe, but everybody tells me how easy it is. So I'm confident following Cookie Do that it's going to be perfect. So for those of you that are watching and with me live, thank you so much for coming. It's always nice to see people and do these demonstrations with people so I don't feel I'm just talking to the machine and talking to myself all the time. I've just got my little notes next to me to make sure I don't miss anything. So for those of you that have never seen a Thermomix, don't know what a Thermomix is, it is the world's smallest, smartest kitchen. It's essentially 25 kitchen gadgets all mixed into one. So it replaces your bread maker, your blender, your stick blender, your soup blender, a chopper, a grater. Trying to think what else. It's a sous vide machine. It's a slow cooker. There's lots of things that the Thermomix replaces. Just a bit of a backstory about me. I've had a Thermomix for 8 years. Thermomix has been around for 51 years. It has evolved over time. But a lot of people who've never heard of it think that it's something brand new on the market. It's not. It has been around for a long time. It's a German company called Vorwerk. And that company has actually been around for about 150 years. So they have been around for a long time. But the Thermomix for me and my family, I'd heard about it from an Italian friend who was living in Canada. Her grandmothers had one. Her mother has one. She's got one. And I went home one summer and was using it with her and fell in love with it. Came home, told my husband about it. He Googled it. It's almost impossible by Googling it and even talking to people to tell them what a Thermomix is. The best way to understand what it does is to watch a demonstration. And I do them in a couple of different ways. Sometimes I do them like this online. Sometimes I'll go to people's houses. There's different ways. I'm really sorry. It's going to bark because someone's on my driveway. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. He will stop in a minute. That's my life. I always joke that I was never going to post these on YouTube because they're never slick. They're never perfect. There's the dog, the husband, the children, and everybody tells me that's relatable and I should. So I've started to encourage to say, hey, this is my life and this is me cooking. The Thermomix links via Wi-Fi to the largest online recipe platform in the world. It's a platform called Cookie Do. And if you're here in the UK, it is www.cookidoo.co.uk. So cookiedoo.co.uk. And you can check it out. You don't need a Thermomix to check it out. You can set yourself up an account. You get 30 days to just check it out and look at it. You don't have to put any credit card details in. It's not something that you're going to forget about. And it's one of the best ways to see what you can make using a Thermomix. And again, while the machine is doing things, I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you Cookie Do. So you can kind of get an idea of what it is. Cookie Do, when you have a machine, when you first buy a machine, you get 6 months for free. And then thereafter, Cookie Do is £40 for a year. So when you kind of think how much a cookbook is, I reckon it's about 2 cookbooks, what you spend on 2 cookbooks every year. But Cookie Do gets better. 8 years ago, there was about 30,000 recipes on there. Now I think we're pushing 80,000 in various different languages. And you can use filters to make that number not sound so scary when you're trying to cook and find recipe inspiration. It's used to Thermomix by not just people like me who, again, my backstory, I'm not a wonderful cook. My husband is a great cook. He loves to cook. He's really good at it. He's one of those people that can walk into a kitchen, find some ingredients and make something delicious. I have to follow a recipe. I don't have the headspace. I don't have the time to think about it. If I follow a recipe, I know it's going to be perfect. And with Cookie Dough, that's exactly what happens. It's restaurant quality food, and I follow the instructions. You can tweak and change things. You don't have to follow them exactly. But my husband uses the Thermomix as a sous chef, so he'll use it as and when he needs. You know, he can chop things, saute things, use it as a slow cooker, a sous vide, all these different things. Whereas I'll use them all, but in the context of following a recipe, which is what you're going to see me do in a little while. I'll turn my machine back on. But it is used by all of the professional chefs. I think there's 90% of them that have Thermomixes in their kitchens. Heston Blumenthal has 14 and the Fat Duck. I know locally I'm in the Cambridgeshire area, and you've got Parker's Tavern. I've got loads of the pubs and restaurants and loads of cafes. I've got cafe owners, cake makers, all sorts of people. So the Thermomix isn't just for one type of person. It literally is for every kitchen, for every cook, because everybody uses it and loves it for different reasons. Saves all those pinch points, time. It massively gives you time back in your day. And you'll see when it's cooking that it's going to be doing things for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 20 minutes. I can go off and do something else while it's doing that. So that is physically giving me time back. I can be tidying up the kitchen as I'm going, so my kitchen's not trashed at the end. That was one of the things I hated about cooking before. I can set the table, I can make the phone calls, do the emails. I've got, one mom with 2 young children, and she says 5 o'clock is witching hour. And she says her children become feral when she's trying to cook dinner for them. And she said, they're all over me, they're in my way. And she said, now I've got the Thermomix, I curl up on the sofa and read to them while the machine is making them dinner. So for her, she loves that. You can cook healthy meals because you're cooking things from scratch, much, much easier than, doing it the traditional way. And so you know what's going in your food. There's no additives, there's no preservatives, there's no fillers. I watched a panorama program recently about all of the different fillers and things that are in foods. It's quite shocking, really. And cooking with a Thermomix, again, you know everything that's going in your meal. Reducing waste. I know a lot of people that do HelloFresh and Gustos and things like that. Everything's arriving all individually packaged with a Thermomix. You can still order your groceries plan your menus on Cookie Dough, which you'll see me do, add them to your shopping list. If you're an online shopper, send that to your grocery store and your groceries will be delivered. So you've not got extra packaging, and even your toilet paper and kitchen cleaner and all that will come on one. So you're not kind of having to do 2 different deliveries or 2 different trips to the shop. You can involve the whole family. My son's been cooking with the Thermomix, well, independently since he was 12, but I am meant to tell you that adult supervision is required. The blades inside the Thermomix are quite sharp, and I will show you that in a second. Saving money. So that's a huge thing at the moment. Bills are skyrocketing, but actually with the Thermomix, again, using Cookie Dough, you can type in ingredients that you already have, and it will give you ideas of things that you can cook. There's a recipe for versatile smooth soup. I make that every couple of weeks. I kind of go through the bottom drawer in my fridge at my bendy carrots and my broccoli that's starting to turn yellow and all of those kinds of things, and throw it all together. And I make this delicious soup, which that's a couple of days of lunch, mix that with some homemade bread, and I'm good. And it would have been things that I'd have thrown away. So massively saves money and saves waste. And expanding your recipe repertoire, which, a lot of people cook the same things over and over and over again because they're easy. We know how to cook them. I will tell you the cost of a Thermomix is £1,189. There's different ways that you can purchase a Thermomix. You can either finance them, put them on a credit card. We do a payment link now so that you can pay straight from your account if that's what you'd prefer. We have the payment options for 12, 24, 36, and 48 months. The APR is 14.9%. However, if you do spend over £1,349, I think, which is essentially a Thermomix and a second bowl, you have the option of interest-free for 12 months. So I think the Thermomix and the second bowl works out at about £113 a month for 12 months. There is an offer this month, and this month with the Thermomix, you actually get an ice cream tub and an ice cream scoop. Making homemade ice cream is so easy and so delicious. I've got homemade chocolate ice cream in my fridge currently. I've done honey ice cream, I've done lavender ice cream, there's all sorts. But I can, chat with you guys about that when we're offline, or you can message me. I think that's kind of those introductions. I very quickly want to, just before I start cooking, show you what you get. So this Thermomix bowl, this is where the magic happens. It looks like a blender. My husband said to me when I told him I wanted a Thermomix, and he Googled it, and he said, I'm sorry, you want me to spend how much on a blender? Because that's what it looks like. But the blades inside there are super sharp. The sharp on one side, dull on the other. It goes in 2 different directions. So depending on whether it's rotating in a forward motion or a reverse motion will depend on what it's doing and at what speed. It's stainless steel bowl. It's deceptively big. It's 2.2 liters. I've got families with triplets. It does feed families of 6. Equally, if you're a family of 2, you can cook quite nicely in that. You can batch cook as well. This all comes apart. So that base comes off. The blades come out. Everything can go in the dishwasher. Even this. A lot of people are worried about putting this in the dishwasher because of these pins on the bottom. As long as when it comes out of the dishwasher, the pins are dry before you put it back on your machine, you're good to go. However, the machine does have a pre-clean function, which I use quite a lot. It's one of my favorite functions. Throw some water in there, a bit of fairy liquid, tell it what you've been making, and off it goes, and it will clean it. A lot of the time I do that during the day, and then that way I can just keep using the bowl, and then at night it goes into the dishwasher. It comes with this here, which is your whisk. So if you're making meringue, cakes, things that need some whisking and aerating, this is great. Some cocktails will use this. For any owners watching, never go above speed 4. I know some of you have heard me say it. I say it all the time. Either for you guys, I know that a lot of this is going to be a lot of information. I don't expect you guys to remember it. It's an overview right now, and I absolutely support my customers in so many different ways, and make sure that you learn as you go with me. But I tell everybody that about Speed 4 because it's very easy to pop it in when you just want to whip up some cream and turn it on. And one of my very good friends did some marshmallowy cocktail. I don't know what she was doing. She turned it up to speed 9. It definitely ate the whisk, but it also came out of the top and she had to redo her sealing. So hence me telling everybody not to go above speed 4. It's about £8 to replace this. It was a lot more for her to do her sealing. Thankfully, she did say, I remember hearing you say that as it was happening. It also comes with this here, which is a simmering basket. A couple of ways that you use this. It can sit inside. So for some recipes, when there's, I'm trying to think what are the ones that I do. Maple teriyaki salmon with broccoli and rice. You make your marinade. Once your marinade is made, you then put water in the bottom, put your rice in here, put your lid on, and then you put this contraption on top. This is called your varoma, which is kind of like it replaces your 3-level steamer. So that sits on top, and you put broccoli inside there. Then have a tray, which sits there, and you put your marinated salmon on that, put your lid on, and let it cook for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, it's all cooked to perfection, all ready to go on your plate at the same time. So that gets used in a few different ways as well. Other things, and you'll see me do this today, some recipes want this to be on top because it allows the things inside to cook, but the steam to still escape. What else does it come with? It comes with this, which is a splash guard. You don't use this very often. High temperature stuff, browning onions, browning meat, high temperature sugar stages and things like that. That will sit on there and it locks in place. It's just a safety feature so that nothing inside that gets too hot will come out and burn you. This here is a little measuring cup that sits inside. Again, some recipes want it in, some recipes don't. And the other thing it comes with is this here spatula. Got a couple of little designs on it. Here you've got this like hook. When you have your simmering basket inside and it's hot, you're not going to get it out without burning yourself unless you use this hook. So where the pivot is, there is a hole, and then you can lift it out. I don't have sieves and like colander things anymore in my kitchen. If I need to clean fruits or vegetables or strain anything, a lot of the time I use this. Or if I've got something really big, like a big bowl of pasta that I want to drain, I use that. So Again, it's just saved me loads of room in my cupboard. We had ours for 6 months, and then I said to my husband, right, now let's see what we can get rid of. And we freed up 3 cupboards of stuff. So that's everything I think I've covered that the machine comes with. The only thing it doesn't come with is this, which is a peeling blade cover. So this magic blade cover peels your hard vegetables, your potatoes, your carrots, beetroot, things like that. It also, if you're using the machine to slow cook, sits over the top of the blades, just like that. So the blades are still turning inside and everything's turning, but the blades aren't making your food mush. And if you're sous vide, which is where you cook in the vacuum sealed bags in water, it's very chefy. It's a great way to cook steak. Again, you're not going to have the blades burst the bag open. So that's 32 pounds. And that is the only thing it doesn't come with. So I kind of think I have covered the basics of the machine. I'm just checking if I've missed anything before I start cooking. Delivery is 3 to 5 days currently. For those of you, by the way, that do decide that you're watching this at some point in the future, when I was talking about the offer with the ice cream tub and stuff, it is August for us, August 23. So if you're watching this at another point in time, it might not be that offer. It might be something different. The Thermomix comes with a 2-year warranty as standard. You can get a further 3-year warranty. That's £149, and that gives you 5 years total. So I'm going to come over so you guys can see, hopefully on that other screen, the Thermomix. And as you can see, I've got a black one and a white one. So this black one is a limited edition. It is still available. So at the moment, you have the choice between the white and the black, just while supplies last. But when you turn your Thermomix on, these are the 3 dials that you have. First dial is time, second dial is temperature, and the third dial is speed. So whichever one is the big one, that's the one that's highlighted and engaged. So that one, I would just then turn that dial for time. I would turn that one for temperature. Try to put anything in that, and I would turn this one for speed. If I slide across that way, there's a whole host of other functions and features, but I'm going to talk about them a little bit when it's cooking because I want us to cook. But that's lots of manual things for cooking. It's a way of just accessing if you want it to chop, if you want it to blend, if you want it to, cook, if you want it to pre-clean and those kinds of things, your egg boiler mode. And then if I slide across that way, that takes you into cookie dough. But I'm going to show you guys cookie dough on the computer because it's much easier. But what we're going to start with is there's a little hamburger up in the top corner, which opens another menu. And I'm going to go into my week because I've programmed what I'm making today. And we're going to start on this machine with that butter chicken. And I'm literally just going to press start cooking. So the first thing, I've already done this bit. So the first thing it wanted was a large bowl. I take this off and I just placed a large bowl on top. What I'm going to be doing is accessing the scales, which are built into the machine. So the feet of the Thermomix are your scales. If you need to move your Thermomix around, always make sure you lift it. Don't drag it because you want to protect the feet. I've got my Thermomixes on the Thermomix slider board. It's got little gaps in it for the feet to stay on, so it just protects it. And you can slide it around the counter. But I've already put that bowl onto the mixing bowl lid. And it then says weigh into bowl on the mixing bowl lid, 500 grams of chicken breasts diced into 2 to 3 centimeters. I've actually put more because I know that this recipe, like always, with the curries and things like that, you get lots of sauce and I want leftovers for tomorrow. So I put in about 650 grams of chicken. I added 100 grams of tikka paste. Now that's homemade tikka paste. Didn't buy it. I know everything that's in it. I've got a jar of it that I've made. It sits in my fridge. Every time I take some out, just pour a little bit of oil on top, and then it'll just sit in the fridge it lasts forever. Well, not really forever because I eat it. It's also really good mixed with yogurt to marinate on chicken. You can put some on the salmon. It's really nice on the grill. So the tikka paste is delicious. And then I've given that a stir. And I let that sit because obviously the longer you let things like that marinate for, the yummier they taste. So that's kind of been marinating in the fridge for the afternoon. So that bit's done. So I'm going to leave that until I need it. And then it's asking me to place 40 grams of ghee. Now, if you can see, my scales now say minus 2,135 grams. So top tip, always check that your scales are 0 before you add anything in. So if you just press that tear button, my scales should go back to 0. Now, ghee is again something you can buy in the supermarkets. It's not cheap. All it is just clarified butter. So there's a couple of recipes for it. I make it myself and I just keep it in my fridge. So I've got some ghee here ready to go in. I've got my window open, so my scales are moving around a little bit. They're okay, they're not much. So I should have about 40. Let me take out a little bit, just because I don't want it to be. There we go. 40 grams of ghee. And then I'm going to place the simmering basket. I'm going to put my lid. This always has to be on. And you'll see when it goes on, the arms will lock. And that's a safety feature. So I'm going to pop this simmering basket on top. Press next. And I'm going to turn this speed selector to 1. And now for 1 minute, it's going to heat up and it's going to melt that ghee. So while we're doing that 1 minute, first of all, has anybody got any questions for me? Am I going too fast? Is my pace okay?
The only question is quickly between the limited edition and the white one. Yep. Other than the color, is there any functionality difference? No.
They're identical other than the color. And you can see on that screen, the black one, they call it the black diamond because it's got like a little bit of a pattern in it. It makes it much easier to clean, I'm not gonna lie. Because of that nice pattern in it. But no, they're exactly the same other than the color.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. So that's got about 15 seconds left. There's a button up here called preview. If I press that, that then tells me what I need next. So again, if I was in that 1 minute, I could have thought, right, I need my onions. I could have got my onion out. I tend to grab everything as I need it. I don't tend to prep. When I do a demo like this, I do, because you guys don't need to see me running around my kitchen. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the machine singing to me. It's telling me I've done that stage. I need you to come back so we can carry on. So I'm just going to press the next button. And that's when it's then telling me to add 150 grams of onions just cut in quarters. So again, I'm going to just tear that machine and make it 0 because I took the lid off. And I've got onion here, got quite big chunks of onion. So they're not little. And I'm going to, yes, Tiger, you're not going to eat my onion. And I'm going to put my onions in. The scales are going to count up. There we go. So I've got 148 grams of onions in there. Now, if I had a bigger onion and I had a little bit left, I would still add that. I would use whatever onion I have. It doesn't need to be exact with your measurements. Some ginger. So I've got some ginger, which I did peel and slice up. So that should be about 20 grams of ginger. And that one, your scale's already reset. So there we go. Let's put all of that ginger in. Press next. Some coriander, which I have. How much coriander do I need? 10 grams of coriander. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I think it's going to be the bigger one I have here. That'll be my decorating one. There we go. I'm going to put in more because I love coriander. There we go. Coriander, some garlic cloves. The garlic cloves you do peel. But they're kind of big garlic cloves, which I've just peeled. I'm going to put those 3 in. Press next. Now this one says 2 green chilies. I am the biggest wuss around, so I'm just putting 1, and I have de-seeded it again because I'm a wuss. My husband will probably add chili flakes to his because he likes it hot. But there's some chili. If I show you what all's in there, there you go. That's what's in there, my big chunks of everything. And it wants me to add my measuring cup into the lid. So again, the lid will always need to be on. If it's not and you turn it on, it's just going to tell you no lid detected. Basically, try again. It's not going to hurt it. Put that measuring cup in, press next. And for 10 seconds, it just wants me to turn it up to speed 5. And it's going to chop all that down. And I will show you what that does in 10 seconds. So again, this is one of the great ways of it showing you how it will save you time. Just like there's always a little bit of a delay for the arm to open. Ten seconds. So if you were going to have to chop all of your onion and chop everything up by hand, that takes time, effort. It's just asking me to scrape the sides down. So that's all I'm doing is I'm just using that spatula and just pushing everything down into the bottom. I always take my bowl off the machine when I do the scraping. I do it for a couple of reasons. One, like this, if I had that on there, I'm not that tall. I would have to stick my face over it. And I don't want a face full of onion and chili. I know from experience that hurts. So I take it off, I push everything down into the bottom, but the next thing I do is that. Now, there's two trains of thought between us advisors. Some of us don't like banging on our machines because we don't want to shock the scales. There's no right or wrong. The company haven't said that you can't do it. I'm just one of those that likes to protect the feet. So I don't often bang on the side. So that's done. Now, again, it wants that lid back on. And this time it wants that measuring cup, or the, sorry, simmering basket. There we go, to go on top. Good, and this time it's going to cook for 5 minutes. And I'm going to go up to speed 2. And that's now going to saute everything that's in that bowl for me. So again, when you heard me say earlier about time, if you were sauteing this on your stove, you would have to stand there and keep it stirring to stop it from burning. You don't have to. The great thing with the Thermomix is it maintains its temperature to within a degree, and it maintains its movement. All of the recipes that are on Cookie Doo are on there, and they've been done by recipe development chefs. Some recipes are collaborations that they've had with professional chefs, and they're all tried and tested. So it's really, really good. So while it's cooking, I just want to show you, again, that preview button. The next thing it's asking me for is my salt, my cumin, brown coriander, and turmeric. So I could be going to my cupboard. I could get all that out. I have already done it, so we're going to skip that. I'm going to just press the bookmark over there, and that takes me back to where we were. There's another menu. There's 3 little dots next to preview. And that one it's another way of opening preview, or I could actually look at the entire recipe, which is here. So this recipe is an easy recipe. It's about 15 minutes of prep time. The whole recipe is 50 minutes start to finish, and it's a serving size of 4. All of my ingredients are down one side, and all of those steps are along the other. And if I scroll all the way down, it tells me, right, I'm going to need a spatula, all of the different things I'm going to need. Some tips. Some recipes have tips at the bottom. This one says to make your own tikka paste. The chicken can be left to marinate overnight. And then some background information about chicken tikka. It's also got your nutritional information. So per portion, it's got your calories, your protein, your carb, your fat, and your dietary fiber. Those are on all of our recipes. So for people who are trying to watch various different things, it's a great way to be able to see what the recipes are. I'm just going to press the house button, and I'm going to slide back to that screen that I showed you earlier. Now that's the screen with, I call it the functions screen. So if I wanted to access the scales, I don't know if it's going to do it while it's cooking. There we go. I can access the scales. So if your next step was just that 150 grams of onion, I can take a little bowl, put it on top, put my onion in, and I can still use the scales while it's cooking. Or if you're not cooking, but you're doing something else, so you can just use the scales. Chop function, that's relatively new. So I know I've got Katie watching who has a machine. So Katie, if you are watching it still with me, this might be really useful for you. So this is a relatively new function, that chop function. When you buy a Thermomix, you get a book called Simple Ideas. I have no idea where my book is. I've lent it to someone and I don't have it back, but the Simple Ideas book is really good. It's a great introduction to Thermomix. It's a great introduction to the differences in the ways that we cook. But at the back of that book, it has a cheat sheet. So if you want to know how to make breadcrumbs, grate your cheese, do some mince, if you want to know how long to steam your vegetables for, the back of that book is that cheat sheet. But this chop function is a lot of that cheat sheet made on the machine. So you've got your drop down in your different categories. So if I go fruits and vegetables, and if I wanted to chop up some apples, or if I wanted to chop up cabbage for a coleslaw, I could press onions, and then you would pick how much weight of onions are, and it actually then says do 3 to 4 seconds at speed 5. Let's see. So it's just a really, really great little function. Actually, I had somebody the other day who said to me that they needed to grate 4 kilos of carrots for cakes. And I was like, well, just use that function and just do it in batches of 500 to 700, pop them in. Well, there you go, 5 seconds and it's done. And then just keep doing that. So that saved her a ton of time. The other functions on there are the dough function. So you'll see me use the dough function. That's where it just needs the dough for me, so I don't have to do it. That's no hands-on. I make so much more bread using the Thermomix than I ever made using my bread maker. The bread maker was the first thing I got rid of. I do still need the oven to bake it in. But the step-by-step instructions are so good. I've made baguettes, I've made bagels, I've made milk bread that's braided, and I've done these beautiful kringle things at Christmas, things I would never have dreamt of doing, but because Cookie Juice talks me through it step by step, it's brilliant. The other thing I didn't mention with the Thermomix is its energy efficiency. It is one of the most energy efficient appliances that you'll have on the market. So, you know, you're not using your oven so much, you're not using your hob so much. The more you use your Thermomix, you're saving money just by the way that you're cooking. Turbo function, probably more for you, Katie. Turbo function is something I tend to talk about once people have their Thermomix. When you're making things, sometimes when you're making a dough or a dip or a cake batter or icing, and you can see that things are kind of stuck underneath the blades, I use the turbo function. Pop it on, put your lid on. Turbo only goes from, I think, half a second to 2 seconds. Turn it on, and it goes so fast, it flings everything into the side of the bowl, and then you can scrape it out. And again, for anyone who has a Thermomix, the turbo function, when you're using it, it doesn't release your bowl. So you do have to, you can stand there and stare at it all you like. It's not going anywhere. There is a little picture of a house when you've used it. You need to press the house, and that will release the bowl. So that's just a top tip for owners. But like I say, for anybody new, turbo is kind of one of those things that I talk about once you've got the basics down. I'm going to come back to the functions and features shortly. I'm just going to take that off, take my lid off. You can see the steam coming out. And that's all nicely hot and sauteed in the bottom for me. Smells amazing already. So in there, it wants a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of ground coriander, and a half a teaspoon of ground turmeric. Now I have all of that already put together in one little dish. So I'm just gonna pop those in. There we go. And then it just wants me to, again, pop that lid on. Put the simmering basket on top. Press next. And again, it's now going to cook for another 3 minutes. And now it's going to saute that with those spices and salt in it. So I'm going to quickly go back to, where were we? Pre-clean. Pre-clean is my favorite function because essentially I am a very lazy cook. And with the pre-clean function, what you're going to do is just put water to just cover the top of that kind of knobbly bit on the blade and add a dash of fairy liquid. That's all it needs. Pop your lid on, and then when you open the pre-clean, oh, it's not going to do it while it's cooking. So I'm going to come over to this one. Hopefully you can see, there we go. Let's go across pre-clean. Then you have choices. So the short pre-clean is, I don't know, it's like a minute or two. If you've done a smoothie or you've done something where it doesn't need a whole lot of clean, do a short clean. And then you've got dough. So when I'm done my non-bread, I'll use the dough feature. Universal, that's pretty much everything else. So when I'm done my curry, that's what I'll do. I'll do a pre-clean using universal mode. Fats and caramels. So when you've got sticky things, you use the pre-clean mode using fats and caramels. And then you've got one for browning. So there are going to be times where things get burnt and stuck on the bottom of your bowl. Don't use fairy liquid when you're using the browning feature. That would be one where I would use vinegar. And the reason I say that is on any of those modes, what the Thermomix does is it assesses how dirty it is, how long it kind of moves things around and sees where the resistance, it's magic what this machine can do. And it works out what it needs to do. How long does it need to spin? How hot does it need to get? And on the browning function, if you've used fairy liquid, sometimes you get quite a lot of foam and it can bubble over the top. So we do always say to use the browning feature. And again, for anybody watching back who already has a Thermomix, there's a couple of other really good cleans. Sometimes the bowl, like this one's looking pretty good at the moment, nice and shiny. There are times where it's a bit dull and I kind of look at it and think, I know you're clean, but you need a bit of love. We've all got our different methods. I found a method on another Thermomix Facebook page, which is the lemon and eggshell wash. So if you Google lemon eggshell wash Thermomix, it's basically using up some lemons and some eggshells, bit of water, chops it all up, and then you cook it at 50 degrees for 30 minutes. Definitely don't pour it down the drain, but your bowl comes out looking like that brand spanking new. But yeah, if you Google Thermomix cleaning, there's lots of different ways when it does look a bit dull and a bit tired. But the pre-clean and then the dishwasher, it's good to go for me for tomorrow. What else? What are my other features and functions there that I want to talk? Blend does what it says in the tin. It's like your blender. If you filled that machine bowl with ice and did 10 seconds at speed 10, you're not going to have crushed ice. You're going to have snow. That's how powerful it is. I've spent quite a lot of time talking to different chefs about why they like the Thermomix. One of them, well, not just one, two actually. The blend function. Apparently there isn't anything on the market that does a puree and does the blending the way the Thermomix does. So a lot of the chefs will have it on their sauces, pastry station, they'll use it for their purees. I've got one pub locally, they use it for all their ice creams and sorbets. I have another chef who said, we did a creme patisserie when I was with him, and we kind of changed up the vanilla for some other flavors. And he said, all of my chefs can do a creme pat, but he said, I'm not paying them to stand there and do it. It's my recipe. It will be consistently the same every single time because of the way it moves and maintains that speed. But that's kind of the blend. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Let's see where we are. So next, I'm going to take that off. I always take my lid off upside down because again, I don't want to make a mess. So if you look at the inside of that lid, it's wet, it's got ingredients on it. So I always just put it down upside down and then I'm not making a mess. So water, I think it needs, there we go, 100. I'm just going to, again, check my scales are 0, add in some water. Hopefully I've got about 100. There we go. Some water. Next, let me just show you what's in so that you can see it all. There you go. I'm just going to scrape it down. It's not telling me to. If I can find my spatula, there we go. Just because I know I can see that there's some bits that I just want to push down into the bottom. Again, give it a little bang. Put that one. Put the lid on. Put it simmering down, get on. Press next. This time it's going to cook for 5 minutes at speed 1. So now it's just going to gently cook. And I'm going to come back over here because I want to show you some of the rest of these. There we go. Egg boiler. Egg boiler was a relatively new feature, came in last year sometime. So one of the things with the Thermomix, or another thing about the Thermomix that we all love, is it gets better with age. There's very few appliances that you buy that get better. So this gets updates because it links via Wi-Fi. Every now and again, you turn your machine on and it tells you there's an update available. Some updates are back office updates, so it's nothing that we see, nothing that we know. But some updates are a new feature or a new function. So egg boiler mode was one of them. Now, I was always somebody, I liked my egg hard on the outside, but I liked my yolk runny, and I would put it in the pan and I'd have one of those little red things that you dropped in and you watched it change color. And I used to have to stand there and watch it so I didn't miss it. Now with the egg boiler, you put water in, put your eggs in. It's the only feature that the blades don't turn. And then what I do is choose how I want them. So I want mine medium soft, put the lid on, off I go. It sings to me when my eggs are ready. And then I just run them under some cold water and that's my eggs done. So it's a really good feature in the morning. And same with hard boiled eggs. I do egg salad sandwiches and all sorts of things. I can just chuck my eggs in and off it goes. Kettle. So it will also be a kettle. I have customers that live on boats. I've got customers that take their machines when they go in the caravan, when they travel. So it's one less thing they have to bring because it will do your kettle. I would say if you're going to use it as a kettle, just use water in it for the kettle mode. And again, it's so energy efficient. It's a more inexpensive way. And then the other one that I want to show you here is the warm up feature. So warm up feature is great. So tomorrow when I want to reheat my curry, I will put it back in there. I always use the whisk on warm up mode because it only goes to speed 2. So if I've got a full bowl of something, it'll heat the bottom really well, but with put the whisk in, it just gives it a nice move without squishing your food down or, you know, kind of turning your vegetables to puree. So I always use this. And with that one, you put it on at what temperature you want and off you go. It lets you know when it's done. It's also really good if you want to make hot chocolate and you've got children and you don't want it to be too hot. You set the temperature, off it goes, and it heats your milk up really well for some good hot chocolate. What else do we have? Blend, kettle, warm up, thicken mode. That's for your sauces, your gravies, your béarnaise, your hollandaise. custards. It makes the most amazing custards. No more of that bird stuff, because if you actually read the ingredients on it, it's awful. There's a million of them that you can't pronounce, which means, you know, you're eating bad stuff. Make it from scratch. Put your ingredients in. It's like eggs and milk and I think cornstarch. I can't remember what else, vanilla, some sugar, possibly. I can't remember off the top of my head. And off it goes. And about 8 minutes later, you have the most beautiful custard. But that's thicken mode. All of those sauces that tend to split. And that's a lot of the time what the chefs will use their Thermomixes for as well. Rice cooker. So you can also use your Thermomix as a rice cooker. Fermentation mode. Not one that people tend to use a lot, but that's to make your own yogurts. So if you like yogurt in the morning, you can make your own yogurt, and I'd make it overnight because it takes about 10 hours. I start it before I go, about an hour before I go to bed, and then I leave it on. It switches itself off when it's ready, and then I've got yogurt ready. Pop it all in the fridge. You can do yogurt either in a big bowl, you can do it inside this bowl, or there's yogurt recipes that use little yogurt pots. So there's lots of different ways to use your yogurt. So I've got a big batch of homemade granola in the cupboard, and then I'll make yogurt, and that's breakfast. That mode is used for, we've got the slow cooker function. So again, that just replaces the slow cooker that you have. Sous vide, I mentioned sous vide, that's cooking in the vacuum sealed bags. You don't need to have a vacuum sealer. You can use the water displacement method. And if anybody wants to know how it is, just reach out and I can talk to you about the water displacement method, or Google it. It's using the sink and Ziploc bags instead of using a vacuum sealer. Peeler, that's where you would use your blade cover to peel your vegetables. Now, the other two functions on there are grating and slicing. So there is an attachment which slices and grates, like grating, like you would expect a grater to do it, rather than chopping it up finely. It came out in January, it sold out in 3 days, and we're still waiting for it. So who knows when that's coming. I'm not getting excited about it anymore because I have no idea, but those functions are there for the people who did manage to get the Thermomix grater. So those are all of the features and functions in the machine. So I know I've covered a lot. And again, I definitely don't expect you to remember all of that. It's just kind of so that you can get an idea of what you can do with it. Any questions before I carry on with the butter chicken? No, perfect. I'm going to bring that back over here because that's singing to me. And I'm going to press next. So now it wants that preserved chicken to go in there. I'm just going to take that out and show you that's all nicely cooked. That's a good base. I'm going to take my chicken and unravel that. Look at this. It's all raw chicken. I don't want. I'm going to grab myself a spoon. Oh, and I'm just going to put my marinated chicken in there. Much of that. Yummy. Sauce as I can. Keep a piece that was on it. There we go. What's next? Some tomato puree. So it's 70 grams of tomato puree, which should be roughly that. Puree. Next, single cream. Now, it does ask for 500 grams of single cream. One of my friends, when she makes her butter chicken, she uses a tin of cream of tomato soup and only 100 grams of cream. So that's her way of making it a bit healthier. Some people will use creme fraiche. Some people will use yogurt. So there's lots of different ways, again, with the recipes. Just because that's what it says on there, you can still sub things, you can still change things. They don't need to be exact. The only time your recipes need to be exact is when you're using the sugar stages and the high temperature cooking. If the weights and the measurements and everything do need to be exact, but everything else, you can still use that chef's influence and change things around. But I am just going to pop the single cream in that. So hopefully that's about 500. There we go. Just finish off what's in there. And then press next. And now I'm going to put that simmering basket back on top. And that's going to cook for 20 minutes. Now, I don't know if you notice underneath that little stir symbol, there's a green arrow that looks like a circle. What that's telling me is the Thermomix is now stirring. So the blades are going the opposite way, and they're just stirring against the blunt side of the blade. So it's just not going to chop it, it's just stirring it gently. And you can manually do that. So if I come over here to anybody watching who wants to manually know how to do it, if I highlight my speed selector, and it is usually a picture of the blades, if I press where the blade is, that then says that reverse is enabled. So that's how easy it is to manually put it into reverse and back into normal. So while that's cooking, I'm going to show you how to make the dough for the naan bread, and then I want to show you cookie dough. That's the last thing I really want to show you, and then I'll stop recording and we can do a Q&A for those of you that are still with me. So I'm going to come over to this machine. Again, press the hamburger into my week, and that's where I've saved this recipe that I'm doing. Garlic and coriander naan, and I'm going to start cooking. Bunch of fresh coriander leaves. So I've got my coriander there. Put that in, press next, and I'm going to pop the lid on. It's just going to chop that. That's what it's doing right now. Press next. Speed 5 for 3 seconds. So this is just using the Thermomix as a chopper. There. I'm myself a clean one of these. And then that says just to transfer that to a bowl and set it aside. So that's chopped up some of my coriander. In fact, I think I might chop that up a little bit more. So again, this is where I want it a little bit finer than what it is. So what I'm going to do is just press the back button. Oh, is that a wasp? I don't do wasps. No, it's a fly. So I'm just going to do that again. So 5 seconds at speed 3. And I just want to chop that up. Go away, fly, shoot, fly. That should be how I want it. There we go. So that has chopped it up much better. And there. Then, again, I want some more ghee for this recipe. Got some ghee here. Tablespoon of ghee, which should be. Next. Put it on. This is a ring basket. For 1 minute, just going to melt that ghee down, and then I'll add the rest of the ingredients, and then it's going to do its kneading thing. Kind of go back to, where were we? We covered all of those, so that was good. Get back to my recipe. There's that. And I'm going to share my screen in a minute and show you cookie dough. I kind of think I'm just double checking I covered everything else that I wanted to cover. I'm going to show you the cookie dough shopping list and menu planning and how that works. Do you guys watch any of the cooking programs? Master Chef and all those kinds of things?
My wife watches it a lot. Edith watches it all the time.
Excellent. Every day. Yeah. So the Thermomix is on pretty much every episode of Master Chef The Professional. You just don't see it from the front. We don't pay for any product placement. Cooling down. There we go. You see it from the side, you see it from the back. A lot of the time you're going to see them pouring things out of this. And it's one of those things, now you've seen it, you'll probably start seeing it all over the place. So I've got a Facebook group, which is Natasha's, or I think it's Thermomix Wonder Woman by Natasha Armstrong. And I have a thing in there called #SpotTheThermi. So when people see it on TV or see it in restaurants, one of my friend's sons was in Germany on they finished their A-levels this year, and he found a Thermomix store and took a picture. So it's all of those #SpotTheThermi. So that one's done. Done, it's 1 minute. It's melted that heat for me. And I didn't clean the bowl in that one because I quite like having the idea of all of the coriander in it. So I'm going to put 3 garlic cloves in there. There we go. And I'm going to pop the lid on. It's just going to chop them up for me. Go next. 3 seconds, speed 6. A little bit longer. 1 second. Technical error. No, that's good. It did chop all that up. It didn't sound like it did. Oh, that smells good already. Next, so I'm going to scrape down my sides with that spatula. Push all of that garlic down into the bottom with the leftover coriander into that lovely ghee that's melted. Can you tell I like garlic and coriander? Press next. So now it wants a tablespoon of nigella seeds. So I've got my nigella seeds here. I'm just going to put those in. Now, when I put these in, I'm going to avoid having them sit on top of the blades, because I know it's going to kind of like cook them up a little bit and roast them. So I'm just putting them in so that they're avoiding sitting on top of the blades. Nigella seeds. Pop that back on with that simmering basket. Again, for 1 minute, that's going to heat up and it's going to toast those seeds inside or cook them up inside that oil. Right, what was I saying? My Facebook group. That's one of the other benefits of buying with an advisor, is you get the support. And I support my customers in different ways. I've got a fabulous Facebook group. I'm very, very lucky that it's not me that posts in it all the time. Everybody else does. Everybody else shares what they're making. It's a really supportive community. But I've also got a WhatsApp chat for my owners. I'm cabin crew as my day job, so I do travel and I am out of the country sometimes. And I always want to make sure that if somebody has a question, I mean, I've had questions on Christmas Eve. That's what I'm here for, is to make sure if you're in the midst of something that you're not left going, oh my God, what have I done? Or, oh, can I do that? Or, oh, how do I do that? And so the community that I've created, I'm very, very blessed with. And my owner's WhatsApp chat, again, that's another great resource. So if anybody has questions and for whatever reason can't get hold of me, pop it in there. Most of the time someone else answers before I've even read it. And then it says just to transfer that to a bowl. I think a bowl here somewhere. There we go. I'm just going to scrape that out. Just touched the bowl, which is a little bit warm. But luckily not burny warm, just warm. Right, I'm just going to scrape that out and put that into the bowl. So that's my coriander, little bits of coriander, then it's the nigella seeds, the ghee, and the garlic. So that's just in a little bowl. Side. Next, do not leave the mixed bowl because I want all of that stuff in my dough. Next, grease a large bowl. So I've already done that. So I've got a big bowl here. It's greased. When this is done and I've just put it into a bowl, that's going to go in there and then I can leave it to cool. Place 240 grams of full cream milk. Just get a little bit of extra milk from my fridge. So we go with bread. Kind of need to be a little bit more accurate with your bread. Some dried yeast. So 1.5 teaspoons of dried yeast. I use little sachets. I find the sachets retain their freshness. I find if you buy it in a pot, it doesn't always stay fresh. So I've got the yeast there. And again, I'm going to put that in, making sure that it's not on top of the blades because I want it to be inside the mixture. And then I pop the lid back on. Put that back on. And for 2 minutes, it's going to heat up to 37 degrees, which is what it needs to do to activate the yeast. What else did I want to tell you? Right. So I was telling you, got my owner's WhatsApp, Facebook group, got all of that. Different ways that we can do things. I do a lot of support here online on Zoom. Or do you guys? Oh, I'll ask you guys afterwards. We'll have a little chat when I'm not recording. But I do things in person. I go to events. There's lots of different ways that you can get access to me to help as well. Hosting demos, there's usually host gifts, there's welcome visit gifts. I offer what I call it a masterclass. Instead of a welcome visit, once you've purchased a Thermomix, you should, through your advisor, be offered a masterclass. And it's a really good resource. Not all of my customers do them, but when they do, they all say how amazing they are. And I'm trying to get everybody else on board with doing them. You've heard a lot of information already. I don't expect people to remember even half of it, which is the idea of kind of having that masterclass and the access to that advisor whenever you need them. It is a wonderful machine and it is so helpful and so useful. But it's only as useful and as helpful for as much as you can remember, which is why a masterclass is great, because kind of bed down the little basics, then do a masterclass and you'll be like, oh, I'm ready, I can retain that. And they're really, really useful. Any questions so far? Well, that's going. I'm conscious that I'm talking lots. Excellent. I think this bit is going to be ready in a second. And then I'm going to show you cookie dough. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute. I promise you I'm not going to keep you guys for too much longer. But I'm going to share my screen with cookie dough. Cookie dough tends to be that it's a brilliant resource. And funnily enough, I did an event in our branch studio in Peterborough today, and I was chatting with one of the owners, and she said, I know that there's loads more to do on cookie dough, and I can't remember what to do. And I spent 5 minutes with her, and you should have seen her face with the way, just different things I told her on how to do it. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. So there we go. I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, which I have here. Go. Teaspoon of sugar and a couple of teaspoons of salt. So we've got those here. That's my banging on the bowl. And then baker's flour is just from bread flour. So I'm going to grab another bowl from this so I don't send flour flying all over my kitchen. So 480 grams of baker's flour. Should be roughly what I've got in here, if I've measured it correctly. Forgetting. Oh, bang on. Next, some garlic paste. And again, that tip says ways to make homemade garlic paste. So again, you can have your jars of homemade garlic paste, ginger paste, all those kinds of things. Again, if you go and look in the shops at the ingredients, they've still got additives and preservatives, so you may as well make your own. So I've just got my garlic paste to go in there. And then some yogurt, where should I put the yogurt? There we go. So I should have about 120 grams of yogurt going in. Hopefully. I might need to grab a little. Oh no, there we go. 120 of yogurt. And then I'm going to lid back on. Yogurt's what makes non-bread non-bread. It's one of those magic ingredients. So that's just going to mix up for 20 seconds. So again, this is where you would have your hand blender, that little, the double beater one, which I don't have anymore because again, the Thermomix does it for me. And that's just going to mix that up. Now, I don't know if you noticed that it was bouncing around a little bit. So there's a couple of times I say to people to not leave their machine. When it's kneading, and if you're peeling things, definitely don't leave it. It will bounce around. It's a super intelligent machine. It's not intelligent enough to realize it's on the edge of your counter, and it will throw itself off if you allow it to get too close to the counter. So those are the times I say, just keep an eye on it. If you need to, just pick it up, move it back and put it back where it is on the slider boards, because it's got the little indentations for the feet. I've not had any problems. It's not moved. It's not come off the board. But those are the times I kind of say to people, stay in the kitchen, just keep an eye on it. But any other time, like you can see, my curry's going for 20 minutes. You don't need to be in here. I've got one lady whose office is in the garden. She just sets a timer on her phone and off she goes. So keep the measuring cup inserted, and then it's going to knead for 3 minutes. I'll just show you. That's what it did in its 30 seconds of mixing. So with that double beater thing, you'd have been there for a lot longer than 30 seconds. So I'm going to let that go for 3 minutes, and it's going to knead. Actually done that bit. There we go. And you will see it will start to bounce around, but I'm going to keep an eye on it just to make sure that it doesn't bounce off. And while it's kneading, I'll show you how it does it actually. Never good at getting it in there. So you can kind of see it throws it around in different directions. goes in one direction, then it's going to go in another, and it flips it around. That's essentially that whole kneading process, you know, when you're kind of trying to do it, you're not have to doing it manually. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I just need to find where Cookie Doo is. Is Cookie Doo? Okay, 1 second. This is where it all goes horribly wrong. Let's go Safari, Cookie Doo. Let's go back to Zoom. Share screen. Can you guys see that? Excellent. So this is Cookie Doo. This is the best kind of platform that goes with Thermomix together. There's lots of different ways that you can use it. I've got it on my, it's an app, so you can have it on your phone, your iPad, the whole family can have it. It's one login. Lots of people will open Cookie Doo and see here where it says search Cookie Doo. They'll type something in there because most of the time you open it because you're looking for something. I always encourage people to not actually scroll all the way to the bottom every time you open it. Certainly once a day if you're opening it, or once every couple of days, because all of those things that are there change. So these are some of the latest recipes that they're promoting on Thermomix. This is one of our cookbooks. It's burger season, so they're featuring some of the burgers. And then these are like different articles. I say that Cookie Doo is kind of like having your own cooking magazine. So ice creams, if I hit dig in, that's going to open up a whole section on ice creams. This is delicious, the banana ice cream with salted caramel sauce. And the salted caramel sauce lasts ages in the fridge, so it's really good. For some reason, I am not signed in, so let me just make sure I'm signed in. Log in. There we go. So with that recipe, let's say that was one of the ones I wanted to do. I could either say cook today, and then that's saved into my machine immediately, or I could add that into my week. So if I had people coming over on Friday and I wanted to make this for dessert, I could save that. That's now saved for Friday. So you can plan all of your meals, your snacks, your drinks, your cocktails. You could then also add that. I'm just checking my machine's still good. Yep. Add that to my shopping list. Now, if I hopefully show my shopping list, I've got that recipe, and then the butter chicken one was in there, and the garlic coriander naan. So my husband likes to go to the grocery store. I'm sure people have heard me say this. He likes to get out of the house, so I'm sure that's his thing. And he's got the Cookie Doo app on his phone, and he'll go around by category in the grocery store, and it breaks it down by aisle order. So your fruits and veggies together, your dairy is together, your flours and nuts and sugars and drinks, all of those things. It tends to be how grocery stores have them in aisle order, and he'll just tick them off the list as he picks them up. But before he goes, he'll say, Tash, can you just update the list? So I would say, I don't need dark brown sugar because we've got it. I would say we don't need butter because we've got it. So I can just tick it and take it off the list. But you can add things. So this is where you can add toilet paper, and then that gets added to your list. You could add kitchen cleaner, all of the things that Thermomix doesn't tell you you need, you can just add there. Equally, you can then take your groceries. I'm going to add a couple more things to it just to make it a bit more exciting. So let's go back to explore, and I'm going to go back down. So we've put an ice cream in. Let's see what else there is. Sustainable cooking. So that's another whole article. These articles change. So there are interesting. Power up with protein, marvelous mocktails. It's really funny. It's dry January where people don't drink, isn't it? The 1st of February, when I logged in, and up here it tells, I think there's one trending. Every single one of them was a cocktail on the 1st of February. So that always made me laugh. So yeah, you've got your barbecue season, and if I were to go check it out, fire up the grill, this sangria recipe is delicious. So let's just say I wanted to add that to my shopping list. Make it better with beer pairing tips, like all of these things. It is like having a magazine. And then start cooking with beer. This is going to give you some ideas of recipes. Beer and chili peanut clusters. My husband would love that. So I could look at that. That's a recipe I've never seen before. So I'm going to take that recipe and I'm going to add it to a collection. Now we call a collection what you would call a cookbook. So I've created my own collections. I've got lots of them because you know, I show different people different things, but I've got one which is called To Try. I highly recommend everybody having something similar, because when you find a recipe on Cookie Doo and you think it sounds good, Cookie Doo is like rabbit holes. You're never going to find that one again. So anything I think that sounds interesting that I want to make, I save into my To Try file. And then that way over, you know, whenever I think, oh, well, I know I've seen things, I can go back and find it. But let's just, I'm having a look at this recipe. It's an easy recipe, 10 minutes of prep, an hour and 25 total recipe, and it's 6 portions. Now you can see this little green arrow. Some of our recipes you can size. So that one's not, you can make it your own. If you do it yourself, then it's not tested, but I'm going to find some other ones where if it actually says 6 portions, it then gives you the choice of 4 or 8. And if they're ones that have been done already by Cookie Doo, then they're tried and tested. But those are all of my, you know, how to make it. That's the book that it's in. But I'm going to take that. And again, if I were to add that to my shopping list, now I'm going to show you the shopping list, because now there's more in it. So it's a bit easier. So this is where I would then go through and, right, I've always got gin in the house. I definitely don't need more gin. I've always got red wine in the house. So I would tick off, I've got ice cubes, all of those things for my husband. He would go to the grocery store and then do it. But the other thing that you can do is order your ingredients. And then you've got grocery stores. So you've got Sainsbury's, Amazon Fresh, Ocado, Tesco's. Waitrose isn't there. It's usually there. So I'm guessing there's an issue with the platform and the connectivity, because that's usually there. But if I hit Tesco's, there you go. You can see how it just drops it in, and you can swap things if you don't want that particular sugar or you don't want that beer. It's usually going to tell me that my toilet paper isn't matched automatically, and I would hit find product. Tells you how much it is. So you can even compare the different costs in the different grocery stores. You would add that into your Tesco's cart, and then that would be delivered for you. Amazon Fresh is Morrison's. So if you, I'm going to close this because I'm always worried I'm going to end up ordering a bunch of groceries I don't need. So let's get rid of that one. And I'm going to go back to that explore section. Yeah, so if you've got a Morrison's near you, some people even get it on the same day. So it's pretty incredible. But yes, in a nutshell, spend some time scrolling down here where it says the modes and tools explained. For anybody watching who has Thermomix, pour yourself a drink and spend some time on this. For those of you that don't have a Thermomix, pour yourself a drink and spend some time on this. It's a really good way of learning about the different modes on that screen that I was showing you. I'm not going to cover them all. I just want to show you. You've got your egg boiler mode, your blend mode, and your rice mode, sous vide, slow cook, high temperature, all of these different modes. And it actually talks you through how to use them. And then, you know, gives you some ideas of things that you can do with them. Really, really great section. The recipe spotlight, that changes. I think that changes every week. The dauphinoise potatoes are literally to die for. That's the cutter, which sadly, like I say, not everybody has, but for anyone who has and you're not sure how to use it, that's a great tool. And then Cookie Doo recommends you can take your own recipes, and once you've figured out how you want to Thermomix them, you can then save them. So you've got your recipes saved to the machine, and that's kind of talks you through how you do that. So yes, that's kind of a real nutshell on that part of Cookie Doo. But what I'm going to also very quickly show you is here. So filters, if you're searching, I've got some friends that come over, I can go, and she's vegan. So I can go main dish vegetarian. And then I go down here and I go tags. So, you know, like your hashtags. So if I type in vegan and click that, I've then got 167 results of main dishes that are vegan and various different things that will come up. This vegetarian chili is very good. And then from that over, where is it? Here, I can go relevance, or I can go total time shortest. So it's a really good way if you're in a hurry and you want to find different things that you can make that aren't going to take up a ton of time. Where are we? The other thing I very quickly want to show you is over here where you've got recipes or collections. So if I were to type in, I don't know if this is going to work because I haven't done it for a while. Let's go Indian feast, see what comes up. I get different books. So that's the whole collection of, you know, there's various different Indian foods. I could type in baking and get baking. I could type in Italian and get Italian recipes, Portuguese and get Portuguese recipes. And that's bringing up the whole cookbook. So where are we? Let's go back here and I'm going to go stop sharing. How do I do that? Stop sharing. So like I say, I could spend an hour just on cookie dough, teaching people how to do cookie dough, but that was cookie dough in a real nutshell. My chicken is ready. And it's made a nice big batch of it, of butter chicken. My kitchen smells divine. My husband's just come home, so he's going to be excited. And then what I'm going to do with my bread, and I'm going to do that off camera because you guys don't need to see me do it, but that's my bread. That's my dough anyway. And it says to transfer that onto a bread mat or a floured work surface. And I'm just going to work it into a round ball. And I'm going to put that into that greased bowl that I have. And I'm just going to cover that and set it in a warm place to prove. It'll take about an hour or two. And then once that's done, I'm going to put it back on to my mat, divide it in 6. I could weigh it, and that's where I would open up my scales. It does say about 140 grams per piece. And then I'm just going to work them into a ball. And what I'm going to do is I'll probably record that bit and put it up in my Facebook group because it's using what they call a stretch and fold method, which is a really good method to shape things and help with bread, but it's kind of hard to explain it. So I might record that, pop it into my group. And then I'm going to pull it into an oval shape and I'm going to pop that into a large frying pan and I'm just going to cook them for a minute or 2 on each side. So, and that's going to be my non-breads for tomorrow. So I'm going to stop recording now so I can just chat with the lovely people that I've got watching. For any of you who are watching this back, either on my YouTube channel or if I've shared it with you, thank you for watching. Please reach out if you need me. My email is natasha@flyingfoodie.co.uk. That's FLYINGFOODIE.co.uk. And hopefully I can help you and join my Facebook group, whether you're my customer, no customer, curious. It's a great group full of recipe inspiration. So I will figure out how I stop the video and catch up with you all soon. Nope. Of course, that was the wrong button, wasn't it? Now I need to get me back. I do this all the time. Everybody laughs at me. We're going to try that again. Thanks everybody for watching.